chemicals, yes, chemicals, are quite often sprayed onto your food, your ornamental plants, such as poinsettias, all in the name of making things turn perfect or chemically guiding them to become something that is more edible or prettier looking. So the question becomes, is it dangerous to human health to be able to have something like this in your home? Is it dangerous to your pets to have it in your home? What happens if I compost this poinsettia? Is that chemical now in my garden? And more importantly, what foods are being sprayed with chemicals to help them mature faster? Because that's what I'm most interested in. Well, today's video, that is exactly what we are going to look at from a science-based view, of course, to help demystify, make it more or less scary, depending on your end judgment on this. Because the truth is, pretty plants, such as this compact and incredibly red poinsettia, don't just naturally happen. It is something that is forced quite often with chemicals. So poinsettias, for example, hydrangeas is another one. These plants don't naturally grow compact and small like this. A poinsettia is actually an incredibly gangly looking shrub in nature. And so in order for this to happen, chemicals are used not necessarily to force the plant to do what we want it to do, but to guide the plant with hormones to do very specific things, such as grow more compact and get more red leaves than it normally would. So probably the most common chemical used to regulate plant growth, whether it's your poinsettia or your food, is called paclobutyrol. And what this does is it actually blocks gibberellin synthesis. So gibberellin, if you've been on a geek crew long enough, you've probably heard me say this word before. But gibberellin is actually what is responsible for the space between each node. So a node is actually where the stem or a new stem comes out of. So if you look at a plant and you kind of look up the side of it, you'll notice kind of these little ridges in it. And each one of those is a node. The space in between that is very uniform and flat looking, is called the internode. And what gibberellin does is and particularly if we block it, we shorten that up. So the nodes are closer together, whereas in nature, they would be farther apart naturally. So that allows these really compact hydrangeas, compact poinsettias, that sort of thing to actually happen. Now, this chemical isn't just used for these more decorative kind of indoor plants that we see around Christmas and Easter. They're also used for some of our outdoor plants. For example, chrysanthemums naturally are very leggy and long-looking plants, if you did not know. They're another one, normally very leggy and long. So we will use gibberellin blockers to help keep that more compact. Pretty much anything that normally vines is probably in nature ridiculous looking without this hormone blocker in place. So it is more for appearance. It's not something that you typically see on food, but it is something you see on your ornamental flowers outdoors and then your ornamentals indoors. So the next chemical is called a B9/Elar. So this one's not used as often, but it can be used. And essentially what it does is it stops cell elongation. So the idea here is to get uniform growth. So yes, you guessed it correct. This is something that has been used on food in the past. It's used less and less today, but it is potentially still in your food depending. And the idea here is to get all the apples to be apple size, all the tomatoes to be tomato size. You guys kind of get the point. It is also used on ornamentals to kind of get this compact look. But again, the idea is uniformity and similarity so that these shelves look pretty rather than various different sizes and looks and feels. Chloromequat chloride, so CCC, is the third one. So this one actually, interestingly enough, is used in the world of like wheats, barleys, rye, oats, as well as in the world of anything that's flowered ornamentally. For example, like hibiscus. So the idea here is that it is a gibberellin inhibitor. So again, it kind of stops that stretching from happening, but it doesn't inhibit flowering. So some of these gibberellin inhibitors actually stop flowering. This one does not. It allows the plant to still flower and in turn you to still harvest. So obviously in the world of like hibiscus, it's used to get kind of those shrubs to bloom rather than having to have a whole hibiscus tree in your home. So that's the purpose for that one. But for the purpose of your grain foods and this chemical being used on that, it actually is most importantly used to avoid lodging. So if there is a field or a crop that we know is soon to be heavily exposed to excessive levels of moisture, maybe it's exposed to excessive levels of nitrogen, and we're worried about a crop that's about to fall over, then we could use this chemical to prevent that. And the idea is that when the crop is still standing straight up, it's much easier to combine because when the little knife comes by and chops it, the shaft just falls into the combine and goes up and gets threshed and et cetera and so forth. If the wheat is on the ground, the barley's on the ground, what happens is the combine header has to go as low as it possibly can.
Very pretty out tonight.
Pick up everything, picks up rocks and junk and crud. All these things are not good. So that is the reason for why we would use this one in the grain world. So the word for these chemicals is actually PGRs, and they are considered an agrochemical and they are heavily regulated. So it's not something you could get your hands on by any stretch of the imagination. So that also means that it can be toxic. But here's the thing. It's only toxic based on dosage. So the more you're exposed to it, the more likely it is to be toxic. And this is particularly true if you are on the application end of things. So if you're working in a poinsettia greenhouse, not the greatest place to be, probably, if you don't have the proper PPE to be able to apply that stuff. By the time it gets to your home, however, it's probably pretty low or negligible how much is on the actual plant itself. The plants do metabolize this chemical or these chemicals, and that's part of the reason why they come to be certain shapes, sizes, and colors. So they actually metabolize it. They are not bioaccumulative, so meaning if you consume that food, it doesn't accumulate in your fat or your muscle or anything like that, which is good. It's a good thing because there's several that are bioaccumulative, but these are not it. So do with that information what you will. When it comes to your compost, it also is considered to be safe because, again, it is very easily degraded. It has a half-life in our soil. So if you do put into your compost, it is possible that you're going to put some of the chemical into your compost because it may just still be physically on the plant. However, it just degrades over time and eventually would just not be a part of your garden, not uptaken by your plants. It wouldn't cause any damage to them or cause them to be particularly uniform in any way. Oddly enough, organic adjacents, depending on the regulations in your area, will actually allow you to use these chemicals or these inhibitors on your plants as well as a producer, both for ornamentals and for the food. So that's, not the greatest if you truly want to consume organic. Not ideal. And the total kind of list of plants that we typically will use this on, or what horticulturists will use this on, is hanging baskets, nursery shrubs, fruit trees, bedding annuals, turf grasses, and houseplants like the hibiscus and the dracaena. I think the problem here is that calling them chemicals is really emotionally loaded, and for good reason. However, a lot of these chemicals just naturally exist in these plants to begin with, and we are just actually regulating them in some way. So if you've ever wondered how people successfully grow really pretty poinsettias and you've overwintered yours several times and never gotten that experience, it's because of chemicals, not because of you. I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.